Squid Game. Just hearing the name probably brings to mind its iconic imagery. The green tracksuits, the eerie doll from red light, green light, and the haunting message of human desperation wrapped up in a deadly game. It wasn't just a Netflix hit, it was a global phenomenon. When the first season dropped in 2021, it felt like the world collectively stopped to watch. People weren't just binging episodes. They were dissecting the show's deeper messages about capitalism, inequality, and morality. It sparked debates, inspired memes, and turned its cast into international superstars almost overnight. Fast forward to today, and we're gearing up for Season 2. The stakes are higher. The anticipation is off the charts, and fans are eager to dive back into this dystopian universe. But alongside the excitement, there's a storm brewing. A backlash that has nothing to do with the games themselves. In Vietnam, where Squid Game also found a massive audience during its first season, the reaction to Season 2 has been anything but positive. The controversy began with a single scene, but it quickly escalated into a nationwide boycott. Why would a country that embraced the first season suddenly turn its back on the sequel? Let's dig deeper into the story that the mainstream coverage seems to be skimming over. In one particular episode of Squid Game 2, a character named Dae-ho shares a moment of vulnerability. He's describing his father, a former Marine who served during the Vietnam War. Dae-ho paints a picture of his father as a disciplined, strong, and honorable man, qualities that shape Dae-ho's own outlook on life. On the surface, it's just a simple backstory, right? A glimpse into the character's upbringing. But for Vietnamese viewers, that brief mention hit like a punch to the gut. Here's the context that global audiences might not know. During the Vietnam War, South Korea sent over 300,000 soldiers to support U.S. forces. While South Korea remembers these troops as brave and loyal allies, their legacy in Vietnam is far more complicated. Vietnamese civilians recount horrific stories of massacres, assaults, and other atrocities committed by South Korean troops during the war. Villages like Phong My and Phong Nhat bear the scars of massacres where innocent men, women, and children were killed. These events remain deeply etched in the country's collective memory, not as isolated incidents, but as devastating examples of war crimes. So when a global show like Squid Game 2 portrays a Marine who served in Vietnam as an honorable man, it feels like salt in an open wound for many Vietnamese viewers. To them, this wasn't just a line in a script, it was an erasure of their history and pain. Social media exploded with criticism. Vietnamese users flooded platforms like Twitter and Facebook, calling out Netflix and the show's creators for their insensitivity. Many accused the series of glorifying individuals associated with a dark chapter in Vietnam's history, and discussions about the scene went viral, sparking debates across the internet. What's surprising isn't the outrage in Vietnam, it's the silence elsewhere. While Vietnamese viewers were vocal about their feelings, much of the international coverage barely touched on the issue. Headlines focused on Squid Game 2's ambitious production, its returning cast, and the millions of dollars Netflix poured into it. But the backlash? Barely a footnote in most reports. This isn't the first time we've seen selective storytelling in global media. Historically, narratives about conflicts like the Vietnam War often prioritize Western perspectives, sidelining the voices of those who experienced the war firsthand. South Korean media, in particular, tends to focus on their soldiers' sacrifices and struggles, rarely addressing the harm caused to Vietnamese civilians. So when Vietnamese viewers expressed their anger, their frustration wasn't just about Squid Game 2. It was about years of feeling like their stories and their suffering don't matter to the global audience. This isn't just an isolated incident, it's part of a broader pattern of cultural erasure. And while Netflix and the show's creators may not have intended to spark such a reaction, their choice to include that scene without context speaks volumes about the gaps in understanding between different cultures. Creating art is never easy, especially when it involves topics with historical weight. Writers, directors, and producers often walk a fine line between artistic freedom and cultural responsibility. And Squid Game 2 isn't the first show to stumble on this line. Take the scene with dae-ho. On one hand, it's clear the writers were trying to give depth to his character. A father who served as a Marine, strong, disciplined. And honorable seemed like an easy way to explain why dae-ho is the way he is. But here's the problem. When you bring up historical events like the Vietnam War, you're no longer operating in a vacuum. For Vietnamese audiences, this wasn't just a character detail. It was a moment that erased their pain and glorified someone who, in their view, could represent the worst of their country's past. We've seen similar missteps in Hollywood. Films like The Last Samurai romanticize colonialism. The interview sparked international outrage for its portrayal of North Korea. And yet, these projects often move forward without fully considering how their stories will resonate globally. Should creators be held responsible for how their work is received in different cultures? Or does the audience have a responsibility to separate fiction from reality? These are the questions that arise when art and history collide. What's happening with Squid Game 2 in Vietnam isn't just about one scene. It's a reflection of how global media often fails to account for the complexities of history. When South Korea remembers its role in the Vietnam War, it tends to focus on its alliance with the US, the sacrifices of its soldiers, and the impact the war had on its own people. But for Vietnam, the narrative is completely different. It's about villages destroyed, lives lost, and traumas that have yet to heal. This disconnect is at the heart of the backlash. It's not just about a TV show. It's about whose stories get told and whose get ignored. As audiences, we have a responsibility to dig deeper. It's easy to watch a show like Squid Game and take it at face value. But when we look closer, we start to see the layers, the choices made by creators, the perspectives they prioritize, and the ones they leave out. So, what does this all mean for Squid Game 2? Will the backlash in Vietnam hurt its global success? Probably not. The show has a massive fan base, and most viewers won't even be aware of the controversy. But for Vietnam, this moment is about reclaiming their narrative. It's a reminder that their history, their pain, and their voices matter, even in the face of global entertainment giants. What do you think? Should the creators of Squid Game 2 have been more careful? Or is this simply an overreaction? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. One thing is clear, stories have power. They can bring us together or deepen divisions, depending on how they're told. And maybe, just maybe, it's time we all started paying closer attention to the stories that go untold. Don't forget to subscribe for more content about other events in this world. If you have any other ideas you would like us to share, let me know in the comments. Stay curious. I'll see you in the next video.